Hey, I just got done watching the last episode in the second season of The Walking Dead, and I'm just gonna dive right into some speculations about the third season. I watched another episode, uh, another speculation episode, and this is where a lot of my speculations come from and are based off of. But they there's a lot of things to be said about whatever could happen in the third season of The Walking Dead. I'm really excited about it. And if you don't know what The Walking Dead is, go watch it. What are you doing right now? Just do it. So in the second season, we leave off with Rick's group, or the remainder of his group, after the attack on the farm. They're stranded. Nick has some really just anger because of his wife just rejects him, and so does Carl. And he ends up yelling at his group, and this kind of like before this, you feel that you feel like the characters express you as from the view of the watcher. The characters express some of their doubt, and some of them don't doubt Rick, and they say no, Rick's an honorable character. Rick's an honorable guy, and I can trust him. We can trust Rick to lead us. Um, and then Rick he just blows. He just gets crazy angry. He yells at the group, and one of the things he says is, "If you're gonna stay with me, this isn't a democracy anymore." And then it just pans out, and you get this beautiful view of the prison. It's spectacular. It was nice way to end the season. But I think what this means is that within the first few episodes, straight off, there's gonna be some doubt between all the characters. Some of them are gonna threaten to go off. Some of them are not. And with the introduction of this rival group, I really think what's gonna happen is that once the rival group shows up, probably around 3 to 5 episodes in, maybe two, then everyone in Rick's group is really going to pull together, and and it's just going to show that this group, despite how many fractures there are in it, it's still going to hold together, and they're still going to pull together, and it's really going to show how the humans, survive and will be able to survive. Um, and I think that Carol, the one that was lost at the end of the second season's last episode, um, I think that's what's going to happen. I know this is a little bit crazy to think this, but I think what's going to happen is that once uh, once her the new character, the masked character, is basically explained and described probably within an episode or 2 episodes. Then you're gonna have the governor's character introduced, explained, described, and then at around there, Carol and the governor are gonna somehow meet, and this is what I really think would be a smart move to get them both in at the same time. Um, and or either Carol's going to go first, and then the governor is going to come in. But basically, they're going to meet, and in some way, they have another new character to introduce, and in some way, I think that it would be smart to bring in the new character, and they just have all the characters in at once. I don't know if this is too much for the watcher that to perceive all this at once, but I really think that Carol and the masked character are going to meet up with the governor, and possibly a patrol is going to be by Rick's group is going to be sent out to possibly look for Carol. Not, I take back that statement. Rick's group actually thinks that Carol's dead. They state that, and it's pretty well stated in the last episode. So I think Carol's probably gonna end up either finding the governor, or she's gonna find Rick's group first. Um, it's a little bit confusing to think of it all now, but something like that's gonna happen. Something. I'm not sure what, but it's gonna be something. Um, And I really think and the predictions that I watched before this said something about how they're gonna have to clean out the prison, and I just wanted to say that something logical would be that yeah, maybe some zombies did get in, but I highly doubt it because either all those prisoners were released once the apocalypse happened, because the guards they're gonna go home uh, on the night of or the few days after um, a zombie outbreak. The guards are either going to abandon the prison, leave the prisoners there to die, or they're going to uh, go home to their wife and kids or whatever's left of them, and the prison's going to be empty, or at least have a few rotting corpses in it itself. And those rotting corpses will, of course, be in cages, uh, because, as we know, the virus has gone airborne, or at least if you know, or at least if you understand, the virus has gone airborne. So there might be zombies in there, but it's all going to be contained, and it's going to be nothing that they can't handle. Um, and the prison's most likely going to be closed off. And if you've read Zombie First Survival Guide, then you know that a prison is an excellent area, if there is any area, in the Zombie Survival Guide, because it's chained off just like this prison seemed to be. And there's in the courtyard there's an excellent area you create for farmland. Of course, there's guard towers, and there's most likely weapons if the weapons haven't been raided by other people. Um, and if there's no people in it in the first place, and I don't think there's going to be any people in it, because there's probably just been either single people that have tried to raid it and not have had a group big enough to fortify it. But there's not going to be much in zombie infestation, I assume, of the prison, and it's going to be pretty easy for them to either clear out or none at all, because the people might have died before the zombie outbreak went airborne, or they might have been let out. The prisoners might have been let out, or they and there's going to be no guards in there in the first place because they would have all went home. That's just the way things work, or they would have abandoned it. Um, Now, I think another thing that should be mentioned is that there is going to be a war. I know that between the governor's group, which is I think as mentioned before, I said the governor's group, which is the evil or bad side of of this story, and Rick's group. Rick's group is, of course, going to have their main base, and I think the governor is going to be more in the ways of actually sending out small patrols to scavenge. And I think this is a really important note for survival, saying because in zombie apocalypse, you can either do one of three things really to survive. Be as Rick and his group did in the beginning, and basically scavenge, which is what they did in Atlanta. They scavenged for things. I mean, that may have not what it was perceived as, but they scavenged for things in small groups, all by themselves, such as Daryl did. So small groups are all by themselves. Well, all by themselves is really the second one. So you can be a loner, and you can either scavenge or fortify by yourself, or you can be in one central group, probably with 5 to 10 people, maybe more, and that's just as the governor did. And for survival, everyone knows that the more people you have, the better protected the area you're in. You're going to survive, and the more weapons you have. And the governor's done that, and he's really, and I think it's really going to show that Rick's group is inferior, and they're somehow going to have to fight off a superior force with this gated off prison. And it's going to seem grim. It's going to seem like there's no hope in the beginning, besides, what they probably how they probably hurt the governor. Um, so you're gonna have eventually you're gonna have this war end, and this is a crazy prediction that I'm just gonna make. And you're probably gonna see the the governor either die or the Rick's group and the governor's group combined, because despite what you think, there's going to be tons of room in the prison. There's over 300 cells in like just um, some county prisons, so it's going to be fine. There's going to be enough room for everyone, and I think that they're either going to come to realization, or Rick is going to force them into realization of this fact that they're stronger together as a unit. And then now that there's an area to survive and a safe haven, really, that these two groups can combine together. And I think this is probably going to be um, at the end of the season, or the fourth season, or they could all just blow it off really fast and do it in the middle of the season. There's a lot of things that could happen. I mean, they could go. I'm not even going to speculate some of the things that have been in my head, but basically, I think that eventually you're not going to have the governor's group die. You might have the governor die, and you might have the two groups men, but you're not going to have that huge group die. And I think this will really show how humanity is mending itself back together, and how we're really, we're strong in a sense, I guess. But enough of stupid things like that. But and another thing I just wanted to point out was that the governor's character, as someone who's watching this, in the last episode, you should have already seen. It was the last episode of the 12th episode in the second season. Okay, I'm not sure, but as someone who was watching this, you're going to already know by the third season, possibly within the first few episodes, how evil the governor is, or it's already going to be set in your mind how evil the governor is. Not because they describe it to you, but because if you paid attention, you're going to notice that the governor is going to have a helicopter. And in the last episode, or the 12th episode, I don't remember, you saw that the zombies in Atlanta, basically all the zombies that came after into the farm by strange circumstances, the zombies in Atlanta noticed a helicopter passing by, and this caught their eye, of course. They started to follow the noise of that helicopter down the highway, and then eventually they ended up in the woods, and they were passing by this farm, just as a herd does, and then they heard a gunshot, and they came towards the farm, because zombies just go towards noise. You make a noise, zombies go towards it. And this is really one of Matt zombie survival guides. You can believe whatever you want, but that's what happened, and that's what we showed. So even if it presents itself as evil, you're already going to know that the governor's evil, because you're going to see that he has a helicopter, and it's already going to be put in your psyche that, like, wow, this guy is the reason the farm was destroyed. This guy is the reason they can't go back to the farm. This guy's the reason that that was overrun. And I think eventually, probably within the 5th or 6th season, they might go back to the farm, but I think the farm, as he said, was sort of a dead zone. I think as you see, you're either going to see their society grow that they have now, or their group grow that they have now, or you're going to see it crumble. You're going to see it crumble, and I think if they go the grow route, it would be smart to go back to the farm and have that and clear it out, because they're going to have enough weapons probably by that time. Go back to the farm and clear it out, and make that another safe haven, and possibly have the doctor along with a few other people who want to go there, rebuilding humanity, and just trying to live again, trying to live. And I think it's all going to start at the prison. and the prison is going to be a central idea of how humanity gets back on its feet again. I mean, the small group is probably going to grow bigger. We're going to see new characters such as the Masked Lady, and probably more characters introduced. Not only to bring a more colorful range of characters, but to show that there are people out there, and there are people who